Yes, hello you absolute lovelies. This is the first in a brand new series. This is the most requested type of video on this page. So I want to kick it off with Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow. This is not only one of my favorite modern comics, this is one of my favorite DC comics of all time. And conveniently this week, we are likely to get a trailer attached to Avatar. Now, this video series, this one and any other one, I'm not going to be giving away the entire comic book. I don't want to be a page that just reads you comics and spoils the whole thing, but I do want to give you highlights. I want to entice you to check out the book itself, as well as give you cliff notes. I know a lot of people don't have time to watch every movie, read every comic, so this, I hope, gives the gist, but I really hope it encourages you to actually read the comic itself. Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow is available on DCUI, the DC Universe Infinite app. So if you've never read a comic, you can just click and slide and it'll drive you through the book cinematically like a DP, bringing you through the journey. But I would also recommend you check out your local comic shop because this book is beautiful. It's available in trade, individual issues, hardcover. You can find this book and I highly recommend you do. Now, if you're new to this page, briefly, I do want to tell you I cover lots and lots of comics here. We read about 50 to 70 comics a week and I give you my favorite 9 in a live stream, as well as giving you all the biggest news in movie and TV comic adaptations. So anytime there's a casting announcement, I'm coming from the lens of reading comics for 30 plus years. If that sounds like your cup of tea, please hit that subscription bell. All right, Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow. I think this is the best possible adaptation next in the DCU after Superman because it is so different from Superman while still being very much in that world. Now, this is an out of this world story, and that is already a huge leap from the traditional Superman movie adaptation. This is not a terrestrial story. None of this takes place on Earth, and some of it takes place on Krypton in a brand new way. Now, that is one of the ways I think this is going to serve Superman and the greater super story is we didn't get a lot of Krypton in Superman. We do here in a way that isn't just a traditional origin story. It's a wonderful way to tell that story in a different way, and we'll get to that issue here in a second. I also think going from a very grounded story with very interesting dialogue that was the Superman gosh golly gee, like that energy, into this very hard-boiled Western in space, those are two very different stories, and it shows the range of these Kryptonians. It shows the range of the universe, and going from James Gunn to Craig Gillespie is going to be a really fun journey because that man's directing pantheon. His resume is so diverse and different, and there's so much to kind of tease of what he's going to do with this character. So I think this story, and I'm going to get into it with each and every issue, is the best next installment because it shows how different each movie can be. We've also got Clayface coming next, which is going to be a low-budget horror film with practical effects following this huge epic Western space opera. And let's dive into the issues that shape this story. It is an 8-issue miniseries. It is from Tom King, who brought us Batman, who brought us Mr. Miracle, which is my favorite DC comic of all time. His Batman run is legendary. It's incredible. Recently, Strange Adventures, Black Canary, Best of the Best. He's done so many incredible things over at DC, and now he's one of the writers on The Lantern Show, making that an insane medley of below-the-line talent between the showrunner of Ozark and Damon Lindelof, who brought us Watchmen and Lost. That team is why I'm so excited for Lanterns, but Tom King wrote the original comic, this Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow book. He wrote it a lot for his daughter. There's a lot of really cute stories I'll get into about how his daughter inspired moments and how his daughter inspired this story to be told in the first place. And it's illustrated by Bilquis. Bilquis is Eisner, Ringo, every comic book accolade winning artist for a reason. This book is so beautifully rendered. It is so human, but cosmic. Now, those are the ingredients. Let's dive into the story with issue 1. So I went through this and I reread it this week and I took notes on each issue, and I wanted to kind of give you my initial thoughts about the issue pertaining to not just the comic, but the adaptation and my overall feel of the book beat by beat. So starting with the writing is already so different to Superman's gosh golly. It's angry and verbose vocab is fueled with poetry. There is so much anger and aggression in this book because our lead, Ruthye, is our voiceover. She is our eyeline, and she just lost her family. So we're hearing the story from the future. She is a grown woman telling of decades ago her past as a child and her adventure with Supergirl after the violent murder of her parents. So it is a lot of angry dialogue. It's a lot of very verbose dialogue. This is incredibly well written. It's got words like alacrity in the first 2 pages. It is full of incredible dialogue, but also incredible language in general. So it's poetry, it's violent, it is a lot of things we didn't get and don't get from Superman, who uses very fun, salt of the earth, very grounded, very earnest language. This is the other direction, another reason I'm really excited to hear how this screenplay plays out. And this new just discovered actress playing Ruthye, I'm so excited to see her delivery here. And then Millie Alcock's character of Supergirl, we did meet in Superman. Another reason this is a great follow-up is this allows it to be a spin-off kind of sequel. We met Millie Alcock going to red planets in Superman to get drunk. That is a great way into this story where she's having her 21st birthday, getting drunk while using red planets in order to take her powers down enough to feel that. And she's very, in that movie, messy, and she's very aggressive. And in this, she is very, very foul-mouthed and aggressive because the character so logically has been through so much trauma. She remembers Krypton. She lost Krypton. And one of my favorite things about this story is it actually dives into that loss. It isn't just like, oh, we lost the planet. For Kal-El, he did just lose the planet. He lost his family. It's tragic, obviously, but he doesn't remember that experience. He doesn't remember growing up there. He doesn't remember the moment it happened. He doesn't remember the journey here surviving it. Kara-El has all of those memories. She has all of that trauma. She's hardened for a reason. So I love that this story allows for a very logical difference in these cousins. And this particular Supergirl story isn't beholden to all the Superman stuff. A lot of people ask, why isn't she just trying to save Superman? Isn't that her whole arc? In this story, it is not. I don't personally love when Supergirl's entire thing is, gotta save my cousin on Earth, because it takes away from some of her own story if her entire purpose is someone else's story. This allows her to be her own character. It also addresses the end of Krypton. It addresses her getting her here, being the age disparity with Clark. It addresses lots of things about how it's not just about her cousin, but actually her relationship with her father, who happens to be Clark's father's brother or mother's brother, uncle. But yes, so it dives into all that stuff in its own unique way. So beat 1 of issue 1, language. Krypto and Superman almost makes it a prequel to Supergirl because of her dog, because of how important this character is. And I love that that's how James Gunn found his way into the character. He was talking at length through the press tour about how Krypto was his way into Superman, how it cracked, how he wanted to write the character, who is obviously Supergirl's dog, not Superman's, which I really like that got to be a reveal for people that don't know the character. And here we get to see the adventures of the two of them briefly, and we'll get into that here in a second. So Krypto tying in beautifully to Superman as well. Pacing and energy is so bold and so cinematic. This movie is going to be stunning, and this book was made to be adapted onto the big screen. Space opera, colors, and otherworldly kickoff to expanding universe. I talked about that at the top. This is such a different non-terrestrial story. This is going to be such a beautiful space opera. It has the potential to have visuals the likes of which we've never seen in a story that is so different from most superhero films, nearly any superhero films. This is going to be so special. Great use of powers and depowered. Obviously, she's on a red planet. That allows us to have some time with her, Supergirl, as someone who's weak, who has weaknesses. I think that's important with Superman stories. Every Superman story has to have, like, you know, kryptonite or something where it's like, well, how do we make them in any way fallible? This does this really beautifully for a long period of time, and then there's a green planet element later that even heightens that. I think it's a really great way to allow for some depowered stuff, making her approachable but different from Kal-El, which is very important. Also a great reason to tie to her planet and Lost, but also additional reason in story for her to be hunting Krim of the Yellow Hills. So there is a reason she is hunting Krim, and that comes up here in a minute, and it's brutal and painful. All right, so that's issue 1. Great setup. Issue 2, separate missions become the same mission. So Ruthye hunting Krim of the Yellow Hills. Krim of the Yellow Hills is going to be played by Matthias Schoenaerts, who is fantastic in Rust and Bone. I believe he's in the Old Guard, the Netflix show. Watch Rust and Bone. Matthias Schoenaerts is a powerhouse. He is playing Krim of the Yellow Hills. He is a dastardly asshole. He is a monster, a completely selfish mercenary. Doesn't even kill for money, just kills for joy. He is an unstoppable force of pure evil, murdering the weak. Only the weak, just people he can take out and just building. And his evil actually builds his power up through this orb that develops. When you kill enough people, it comes up. But what I love is these two missions, Ruthie's mission of killing her father's killer and Supergirl's mission of hunting down the man that shot Krypto, that takes out Krypto. I don't know how the movie's going to handle that. I will tell you Krypto's fate as we go along. They're on the same mission, and it's a really beautiful thing because Krim ends up taking off in Supergirl's ship, and it's a many, many month journey, and the journey is fascinating. This becomes a great, like, pursuit story, but the journey is so much of the fun because you're discovering Supergirl in a non-origin story that has her origin in it. Her origin comes up deep in the run, but you're learning about the character as we go along through this mission, and it's absolutely cinematic, and it's such a great way to do this. Amy Sherman Palladino-esque dialogue, one of my favorite writers. Aaron Sorkin and Amy Sherman Palladino remind me of each other with their pentameter. Amy Sherman Palladino wrote Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, starring Lois Lane herself, Rachel Brosnahan, as well as Gilmore Girls and lots of other punchy dialogue things. This feels like that very much. Directly adapting a comic book storyline versus broad character adaptation is not quite unheard of, but damn close. Civil War, for example, that's not the Civil War comic. Batman vs. Superman is not from any certain Batman vs. Superman. These stories aren't usually directly adapted. Rarely is a movie called subtitle the comic that it actually is. This seems to be a pretty faithful adaptation, sight unseen. I haven't seen the trailer, I haven't seen the movie. I'm saying calling it Woman of Tomorrow, it's not anymore, but initially announcing it as that is very cool because this is an 8-issue story that is so perfect to be adapted directly. How directly they do, we'll see, but if any of the shades of this make it on screen, which they will, it's really cool to have a direct adaptation as opposed to like Supergirl, and we used elements of Woman of Tomorrow. They're making a Woman of Tomorrow movie, they're calling it Supergirl. I'm so excited to see this character in this way, so I love that this is the book they're doing. I just felt that while reading the second issue. Have we had a Lone Wolf and Cub told from the Cub perspective? So, Lone Wolf and Cub is a classic type of story. It's a great comic, but usually when Lone Wolf and Cub stories are told, it's from the Wolf storyline. Logan, it's not... X-23 is obviously a key character, but it's Logan's movie. This is very much a Supergirl movie, but it's Ruthie's perspective. Very excited to see the Cub tell the Lone Wolf and Cub story. Let's see. Drugs and Dragons and Powered Up Psychedelic Supergirl. This issue has some of the craziest visuals I've seen Supergirl, the character, have because she's depowered and has to take an illegal narcotic in order to get enough powers to fight. And that makes for some insane psychedelic dragon stuff. Also fighting a dragon. Really badass. Hopefully that makes the movie because I want to see that very badly. Emotion expressed beyond the usual interpretation of comics. I love that emotion is expressed via dialogue and exposition, via POV in the head, but also through the art from Bilquis, also through the way characters portray. There's so much emotion in having the POV be internal dialogue and external dialogue and two characters from different POVs. Fascinating use of emotion in this comic. There's a deal garnered in this, and then there's a big ending moment. I'm not going to give it away. As I said, I want you to read this book, but all of that levels up, so this individual issue has a great arc as well as the overall 8-issue arc. Going to issue 3. I'm going to speed up a little bit because this is probably like a 40-minute video. I'm going to hurry up. Issue 3 dives into both Supergirl and Krim's character. They get us to know Krim a little bit more, dastardly asshole. We dive into Supergirl a little bit more, learn her and the pathos as well as the emotion behind her. Full of beauty and violence. I love the duality of the story. Universal truths across the universe really establishes that well. Shows us more nuances and youthful Ruthye. We actually get to know Ruthye beyond just the vengeance. We get to know the heart of that character, so it's kind of a three-hander of who these characters are at their core, and I think it's really important at a third issue. We've got the inciting incident, we've got the building tension. Now we get to know these characters on this journey. Beautiful scenery and devastating moments in the third act of this issue. Lots of dichotomy. Issue 4. Each issue is its own greatest hits montage and dialogue moments. Each one of these issues could be its own 12-issue story, but each issue is so condensed with pop, 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 and these big grandiose moments. This issue particularly feels like a Rocky montage with great zingers of dialogue, with great beautiful medleys. I'm so impressed with this comic's pacing. This issue is about kindness and sensitivity. Last issue we got to know Krim a lot, so it wasn't so lovely. This issue dives into some kindness and sensitivity, and it's really beautiful to see. It's a human issue with not a single human in it. It's also human in her intensity and willingness to let others harm, if fitting. That is another difference from Superman. She is willing to let others be harmed, and that allows for some mistakes that lead to the end of this. You see Supergirl acting differently. She is willing to let harm befall people in a very different way than Superman, leading you to believe some things that get played around with in the final 2 issues. And that breakdown in Sun moment, man. There's this insane moment where there's an emotional, physical, mental, everything breakdown, and she literally flies into the sun, and it's so beautiful visually, and the reasons behind her are so cathartic, and it's just such a powerful image that I cannot wait to see. It is such a good end to this issue. Issue 5. This is the Green Sun issue. It was rewritten in a day. This book was handed in. This issue 5 of 8 was handed in by Tom King. They didn't like the issue. You can read in the expanded graphic novel set, the deluxe edition, you can actually read the original, and I agree. I don't think issue 5 with the horse girl energy was quite as strong as this rewritten issue, and this was written because Tom King's daughter asked, if there's a red sun that does this and a yellow sun that does this, what would a green sun do? And he writes that, and it's really cool because we have that same thing with Superman. Green kryptonite, blue kryptonite, black kryptonite, all the different kryptonites do different stuff, as do the suns. This issue dives into the green sun and what it does to affect, and it is such a cool visual, but it's also a really powerful issue about Supergirl's strength and a lot of other things. This issue is about weakness. So we had sensitivity, we had strength, all those things in the last issue. Now we've got a weakness issue of magic in the sun. Is going to be Superman's big weakness outside of kryptonite. Now with Supergirl, we get to experience that in a different way. Love this weakness issue. We have great cousin moments with Cal's relationship. We get mention of Superman. I love how he's mentioned. I love the regard, but also resentment. We have unconscious Supergirl, so we have a lot of Ruthye moments. The sun messes up Supergirl. Kara is not able to hang. Apparently, Clark could only hang for 45 minutes with a green sun until the Justice League saved him. She's on this planet for hours. Ruthye has to rally. This involves dinosaurs. This involves badass sword fights. This involves a lot of cool moments. And there's some really cool ticking clock elements with the sun setting. Highly recommend you check out this book. And this issue is a really beautiful use of ticking clock in a comic book format. Issue number 6, Unpacking the Childhood Trauma of Krypton. This is, I think, one of the most important individual issues in all of Supergirl. Supergirl's been around for 70 years. I think this issue is one of the most important Supergirl issues. I think it's one of the best origin retellings. I think it is so powerful. Hearing the origin from her for the first time. And it's so painful. And it's so why the character is who she is. It explains her personality. It explains her differences from just the Golden Age pre-crisis character. It really creates Supergirl, and this is why I think this is the best adaptation for not just Supergirl, but also the next installment of the DCU to show the difference in these characters. While flying on a galactic ally fast Pegasus. So you're hearing this from a perspective while you're flying on a Pegasus named Comet that is going across the galaxy. So the cinematic nature of hearing the story while there's action happening, while there's this orb of magic, which can actually hurt Supergirl, chasing her as thrown by Krim, all of this dynamic on a badass space Pegasus. Come on, cinema. Duality of Horse Girl and Sunset, hyper-violent language and voiceover. So Horse Girl tropes, you've got the sunset energy and imagery, which is very cinematic, and then you've got this violent language in the voiceover. All of that makes me very excited to see it come into play directing-wise. Classic backstory and tension building before final third act climax of 7 and 8. A lot of times in movies, if you think about like Netflix shows or, Disney Plus shows, the third episode before it's over. So the final 2 usually kind of lumped together, or the final 1 and then a denouement. But that 3 episodes before the end is usually like this dip for a moment. This is interesting because it's a throwback, but it's not a dip in energy. It's just a throwback in time. And you get the destruction of Krypton in a brand new way. And you get it all while the tension's building to get us back to the core story. And I think the pacing and the timing of this in the run is genius. And I think it's going to be in the film as well. Krypton didn't die in a day. Her dad, Zor-El, who's played by David Krumholtz, who I love. I'm so excited to see David Krumholtz get a superhero role. He's fantastic. You know him. He's 10 Things I Hate About You, Elf. So many things from our childhood and adulthood. Oppenheimer. Dude is genius. I love Krumholtz as an actor. Seems like a great dude as well. He's playing Zor-El, and I'm really excited to see him as the scientist father of Kara in a very different way. He's a very different man than Clark's father. Krypton didn't die in a day. This little bubble, this micro environment was created by her father. So weeks go by and people dying slowly and by the thousands on this planet that Kara is surviving. So she didn't just lose everything. She lost it slowly and painfully. She had to say bye to her mother in her arms, dying slowly in front of her. She had to be this worker that is planting lead to keep people alive, all while people are dying around her. She's burying graves while planting this lead, while doing all of these things, watching her world die around her. It is agonizing and painful. Krypton didn't just go for her like it did for Clark. It is a very different experience. She's the last worker on a dying planet, keeping it survivable. She's making crypts and hammering lead to save the remaining Kryptonians. A voiceover of father beautifully saving his daughter as the world ends and Comet races forward. Stunning use of color versus black and white. Badass ending. It is such a powerful issue. Oh, what a book. What a book. Cannot wait to see it. 7, Ruthye with the Pegasus and Space Pirates. Good God, what a sentence. Cheeky reveal. So Ruthye is in one storyline. We've got the Pegasus and Space Pirates in another storyline. Cheeky reveal regarding Comet in a twofer. I'm not going to reveal too much about Comet because I want you to read the book. Comet's also a pre-crisis character. and post-crisis character that has a little bit different origins, but the character of Comet is very interesting and very surprising, and I'm curious how that translates in the movie. Kara in space and Ruthye on planet with Krim. So Ruthye is now on the planet with Krim because they catch Krim. He's tied up. Kara's in space with the space pirates. Great dialogue to fully contextualize Krim's flippant evil. Great descriptors to show even someone super can be taken down because the universe is power scaling. I love that Superman is always fighting foes, and it's like, but he's Superman. Yeah, but so are villains. Like we always say, you know, when something happens, there's a reaction to it. The Batman thing, like, you know, the whole end of Batman Begins is power scaling. This is really beautiful dialogue about power scaling on a global scale. Or on a universal scale. Yeah, Kryptonians are strong. So are things that can fight Kryptonians. Imagine a whole ship of them. So I really love the way they handle the stakes of fighting Supergirl and all of these absolute scoundrels of the same or higher power level. A whole ship full of Krim types and tech. Genuine tension and stakes on both sides, on the planet with Krim as well as in space with Kara. Space opera scope and visuals juxtaposed with beautiful beach, all with super hyper violence. Incredible issue. And then we get to our final issue, issue 8. The malice in his dialogue is so great. Krim is such a piece of shit and his dialogue is fantastic here. More great space and beach dichotomy. Comet to the rescue. Hated the politeness and the honor sequence at first. There's something that Ruthye does that drives me crazy, but it grows on me because I get the reveal as it develops in the story. But I remember being really mad, and I'm sure audiences will be really mad at first, but it really pays out in the very end of this issue, in the very end of the story. As a tool to show Ruthie's growth as a warrior following Kara, it really grew on me. In the end, it had to be Ruthye versus Krim, and it had to be with honor, and that's who her character is. There was some dark joy in watching him get hacked away. Crypto elements in the story are really interesting and powerful. The stuff in space is really interesting and powerful. I really love how this story overall ends. I'm not going to reveal it, though. I can't. I'm not going to get into too much of issue 8. Know that the book ends in a very surprising, powerful way, but that it's a strong ending. I don't like the end quite as much as I like 6, but it is such a beautiful bow on the overall story. I think this story is going to be very interesting to see how it ends because I'm wondering if they'll change certain elements. I'm also curious how Lobo comes into play because Lobo was in the original overall transcript, but not in the actual comic. Lobo was taken out of this comic run. Lobo is in this story, and that brings us to our next section talking about the movie, and then we're going to wrap out of here in the next couple minutes. The movie itself has Lobo in it, which is going to be an addition to this story, is played by Jason Momoa. This is the most perfect casting since Downey Jr. as Iron Man. He is born to be Lobo. It just took him time to get the suit. He is the Ryan Reynolds Deadpool of Lobos. He is made for this role to a level that I can't describe. Next to having Rob Zombie score the Lobo movie, this is right there of like absolute perfection. Very excited to see this Jason Momoa Lobo, who is just that perfect pastiche. Very excited for that. Craig Gillespie made Cruella, made I, Tonya, made Lars and the Real Girl. Has the perfect resume for this. The production design of Cruella meets the human elements of Lars and the Real Girl, meets the intensity and great directing of actors of I, Tonya. This man's resume, dumb money, sense of humor, and irreverence. This man's resume is made for this story. Very excited about that. Produced by James Gunn and Peter Safran, who just brought us Creature Commandos, right into Superman, very different stories, right into Peacemaker Season 2. Holy crap, what a different story. Now into Supergirl. I love the diversity of the choices they're making. I love the range of the characters they're doing. I love the tone balance from this. They're going into Clayface. This world they're building, this universe, this greater DCU, absolutely incredible. Very excited to see that they greenlit this story in particular, to see how this production comes along with James Gunn producing something in the DCU that he hasn't directed himself, that he hasn't written himself. Written by Anna Naguara, who is a powerhouse over at DC, who's rumored to be writing a bunch of other things because of the success of this. Very excited to see her writing come into play because you don't get more work if you do just a fine job. The rumor is she's doing a bunch of stuff. But man, what a force of nature. Bilquis Evilly art on display with cinema. Cannot wait to see that. There's 1,000 reasons this is the perfect comic to adapt in the DCU. Not the least of which, it's a next logical evolution from the movie we just got. It is a different tone and range and story building out a greater universe. It is a character that has never been adapted in this way, that is beloved by millions. It is a character that needs more time in the sun, whether it's red, yellow, or green. Hopefully not green. It is a character who isn't what most people perceive her as, especially this version of her. It is also a beautiful lone wolf and cub story. It's also an important story. I could not be more excited for Millie Alcock to get to make her Supergirl stamp on the world, to show everyone House of the Dragon. She is so impressive. This is her first big feature film ever, and she is so worthy of it. I cannot wait to see her Kara. Everything about the ingredients of this. I'm so excited for Mateo Schoenaert, so excited for Millie Alcock, so excited for Jason Momoa, so excited for this movie. This was the first in a series. I'm going to be doing more comic book series review, breakdowns, whatever you want to call it, but I don't want to give the whole comic away. That's not what I want this page to be. You got comic art, you got an edited video as opposed to my usual just stream of consciousness, you got a breakdown, but again, I want you to read the comics. So check out your local comic shop. You can Google local comic shop. There's a whole directory. Find your shop. They'll probably have this one. If not, they can order it for you. And if not that, if you want to read it digital and scroll through your iPad or what have you, DC Universe Infinite app, that's a monthly thing and you get millions of comics. Great way to read comics, but read some comics. Please check out some comic books. What do you want to see next? I did this one to time up with the trailer coming out with Avatar. This was December. I do want to do one of these a month. Maybe more if these do well. Maybe more than monthly, but at least one a month. And I think, I'm going to do Mr. Miracle at some point. Maybe do Saga. Maybe break down some of my favorite Spider-Man stories, some gateway points into Batman, some X-Men. Who knows? I'd love to know in the comments what else you want to see. I had fun with this. I hope you had fun watching it. Please share this video. Like and comment in this video. Comic stuff doesn't do as well, and this was a lot of time and work. Hopefully you enjoyed it. So please engage with this video. Let me know what else you want to see. Share it with your friends. Share it with people that are excited for the Supergirl movie. Share it with people that like the trailer. Share this video. Share it on Reddit. Share it on YouTube. Share it on Twitter and Instagram. Share it. I appreciate y'all very, very much, and I hope you enjoyed this video, especially this deep into it. Like, subscribe to my page. I want to do more of these, and I want to know that it's working. I need to see that this worked. So, all right, I appreciate y'all. Go read Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow. Go check out Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow in theaters this June 27th. I could not be more excited if you couldn't tell. And it's a really special book from a really special team, and the team behind the movie is very special as well. So cannot wait to see how it turns out, and I hope that trailer is as awesome as I think it's going to be. Appreciate y'all. Bye.